March 18th, 1945, Reich Defense Zone, outskirts of Berlin. Snowflakes and flakes of ash drift together in the gray morning sky, settling on the shattered remains of farmhouses and the burned skeletons of pine trees. Germany's capital is only 20 miles to the east, a dying city breathing smoke. Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Mertens pulls his leather flight helmet tight and squints toward the runway at Lechfeld Air Base, now cratered from nightly Allied raids. Packed earth and broken concrete stretch toward a thin shimmer of heat, the heat from a machine no other air force in the world possesses. The Messerschmitt Me-262, the world's first operational jet fighter. Its twin Jumo 004 engines howl to life with a metallic shriek, coughing fire as mechanics clear away from the blast. Mertens feels the vibration through the soles of his boots, a strange, almost alien sound compared to the deep growl of piston engines he grew up with. To him, the jet looks like a weapon from the future dropped into the ruins of a collapsing empire. He climbs the ladder and drops into the cockpit, the metal freezing against his gloves. Inside, the canopy is coated with a thin layer of rime. He wipes it with a sleeve, revealing the blur of Berlin's burning horizon. "Vaterland needs you today, Oberleutnant," his crew chief murmurs, voice hollow. Mertens doesn't answer. He simply gives a nod, locking the harness. Above him, American B-17s and B-24s are already assembling somewhere in the cloud cover, escorted by hundreds of P-51 Mustangs, fast, deadly, disciplined hunters. Inside the control tower, a siren begins to wail. Fine Flug, bomber stream approaching from the west. Mertens pushes the throttles forward. The Jumo engines spool with a rising scream, the jet shuddering, eager. He's one of only a few pilots trained to fly the 262 without killing himself. The aircraft accelerates faster than anything Germany has ever built, but its engines are fragile, temperamental, and prone to flame out. The fighter surges forward, 60 km/h, 100, 160. The tail lifts and the Me-262 knifes into the sky. Berlin's northern districts burn beneath him like smoldering coals. Smoke roils up past 10,000 feet. The Luftwaffe is no longer an air force, just fragments of squadrons scattered across the Reich. Mertens belongs to JG-7, Hitler's a so-called jet elite, though most of the men are barely out of flight school. Then he sees it. A silver wall emerging from the clouds, rows of American bombers stretching for miles, and ahead of them, glinting like needles, Mustangs. "Jetgruppe, this is Adler lead, engage at will. Repeat, engage at will." Mertens flips the arming switches. His 430mm MK 108 cannons come alive with a heavy thunk. One good burst can destroy a bomber. But getting close is nearly impossible. The Mustangs dive on takeoff, waiting to catch jets when they're slow, vulnerable, and low. Mertens knows the truth. The Me-262 is the fastest thing in the sky, except when it isn't. A sudden radio call crackles through the headset. "Mustangs Angels 10 diving fast." The Americans have spotted them. Without thinking, Mertens pushes the throttle to the stops. The jet kicks forward like it's been launched from a catapult. The horizon blurs. He feels the pressure pushing him into the seat as the 262 accelerates past 800 km/h, a speed no Mustang can match in level flight. But the enemy isn't trying to outrun him. They're trying to trap him. 3 silver shapes dive from 12 o'clock high. P-51Ds with red-tipped noses from the 352nd Fighter Group. Their pilots aren't afraid. By 1945, attacking jets is routine. They know the 262 bleeds speed in turns and takes precious seconds to spool up its engines again. "Verdammt," Mertens mutters, pulling the stick. The jet arcs into the bomber stream. Machine gun tracers streak past like white comets. The Mustang pilots are aggressive, pressing every advantage despite the 100 mph speed difference. One slips behind Mertens for a moment, too close, too daring. Mertens rolls inverted and dives straight through the bomber formation. Flak from the American gunners bursts around him as he streaks between 2 B-17s, his 30mm cannons thundering. A bomber's left wing erupts in flame. Crewmen scramble. The massive fortress begins to bank, dying. Mertens doesn't watch it fall, he can't. Another flight of Mustangs is dropping toward him. And Berlin, dying, burning, surrounded, lies directly beneath the swirling fight. The last battle for the skies over the Reich has begun. Continue for Section 2. The Allies unleash the swarm. March 18th, 1945. 17,000 feet over Berlin's western outskirts. The air feels alive with motion. Silver fighters deeping, black flak blossoms blooming, orange fire from burning buildings below, reflecting in the haze. The city looks like a furnace. Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Mertens yanks his Me-262 into a shallow climb. the jet engines groaning as they struggle to spool back up after the dive. Every second they take to build thrust is a second the enemy closes in. And the enemy is everywhere. 4 P-51 Mustangs sweep across the bomber stream like wolves guiding a herd. Their pilots are veterans now. The 8th Air Force has been fighting this war of attrition for years. Engines screaming, they bank hard, sunlight flashing across polished aluminum skins. One of them, a Mustang with a red nose and blue rudder, markings of the 4th Fighter Group, angles in behind Mertens, pilot steady, patient, confident. "He's trying to force me low," Mertens mutters, watching the Mustang's shadow flicker across his canopy. The jet is faster, far faster, but only in a straight line, and in combat, the 262 almost never gets one. Below him, the bomber stream remains unbroken. Dozens upon dozens of B-17s and B-24s drone toward Berlin in perfect combat boxes. Their gunners spit tracers at anything that moves. Mertens can almost feel their gun sights follow him like cold fingers pressed against his neck. "Adler lead, report. Engaged, Mustangs pressing. Stay fast, don't get slow." But he is getting slow. The Jumo engines wheeze as he pulls harder on the stick. The ME-262 hates turning. Every bank bleeds speed like a wound, and the Allies know it. They've studied it, they've trained for it, and they exploit it viciously. 2 more Mustangs drop into formation behind the first, sliding into a classic 4-ship pincer. Their radios crackle. "Blue 3, he's leveling out. Copy, keep him in the turn. Don't let the bastard run." Mertens punches the throttle again. The jet lurches, but it's too late. He's lost too much momentum. His aircraft begins to vibrate, nose heavy, the engines spooling unevenly. He's become the slowest jet fighter in the world, just in time for the fastest prop fighters in the world to catch him. A streak of tracers rips past his left wingtip. Another burst sparks across his canopy frame, shattering the glass in a spiderweb pattern. "Scheisse!" He kicks the rudder and dives, not to run but to change the geometry. The Mustangs follow, committed now. One breaks off as a B-24 gunner opens fire shuddly, forcing him to roll away. But the lead 2 stay tight, their Packard Merlin engines roaring. Mertens drops into the thick black smoke rising from the western half of Berlin. The air tastes like soot. His cockpit fills with the acrid smell of burning wood and rubber. Visibility drops to meters. And that's when he sees them. Not Mustangs, Tempests. 4 of them, banking, waiting, predators circling the kill zone. The Hawker Tempest Mk5, Britain's fastest piston engine fighter, with a top speed approaching 430 mph and unmatched low-altitude performance. Their pilots have been hunting 262s for months. And now the trap is complete. "Adler lead, Tempest below you, brake, brake." But there is nowhere to brake. North, more Mustangs. South, Tempests. West, the bomber stream. East, anti-aircraft fire from Berlin itself. The trap is so perfect it feels deliberate, engineered, a demonstration of Allied air mastery in 1945. One Tempest pulls up nose high, oil streaks shimmering on its cowling, pilot steady as a gunman. He fires a short burst. Tracers arc upward like fiery needles. Mertens snaps his Me-262 into a barrel roll, feeling the world tilt violently. The jet barely responds. The engines sputter. Warning lights flicker on the instrument panel. He is flying the most advanced aircraft on the planet, and he is still prey. Far below, Berlin burns. Columns of smoke twist like black pillars. The war is in its final, furious chapter. And the skies over Germany's capital, once the domain of Goering's mighty Luftwaffe, now belong to the Allies. March 18th, 1945, 14,000 feet southwest of Berlin. Wind shrieks across the Me-262's battered canopy, though half the noise is coming from the warning buzzers screaming in Mertens' headset. His jet is bleeding altitude and speed, and the Mustangs behind him are not letting go. Ahead lies the sprawling chaos of the capital, flames licking at rooftops, anti-aircraft shells bursting above government buildings, smoke rolling across the Spree River. Everything looks like it's sinking into a black tide. "Adler lead, where are you? We're getting torn apart!" The radio bursts with panicked German voices from JG-7 pilots still struggling to escape the Allied swarm. Mertens doesn't answer. His oxygen mask is wet with sweat, the rubber sticking to his face. He pulls back on the stick, trying to coax his jet toward a layer of broken cloud. But then he sees them. 4 Me-262s, the last organized flight from JG-7, diving in from the northeast, contrails streaking behind them like silver threads unraveling in the sky. Their leader is unmistakable, Major Rudolf Rudy Fischer, one of Germany's few seasoned jet aces. He cuts across Merton's field of view and snaps a curt radio message. Adler 2, join on us. We strike the bombers together. Mertens falls into formation, slotting behind the Major as the quartet lines up for a high-speed attack run. The Me-262s accelerate rapidly as their engines clear, their speed climbing toward 500 mph. Below them, Mustangs scatter. They can't stop the jets once they commit to a dive. Major Fisher's voice is cold steel. One pass, no heroics, brake at full speed. They plunge into the bomber stream. A wall of B-17s and B-24s fills the sky. Dozens of lumbering fortresses, each bristling with 50 caliber guns, each firing wildly at the jets streaking in. Mertens feels the world tunnel around him. The gun bursts from the American formations, merge into a continuous sheet of fire. The bomber gunners know jets can appear and vanish in seconds, so they're firing blind, desperate, throwing metal everywhere. Fisher fires first. His 30mm cannons erupt like thunder, sending a cluster of heavy shells straight into the belly of a B-17. The bomber explodes in a blossom of orange, pieces spiraling downward like dying meteors. Mertens squeezes the trigger, his Mk-108s chugging violently. Only a few rounds leave the barrels. The cannons fire slowly but hit with the force of sledgehammers. A B-24 staggers as its inboard engine bursts into flame. The bomber veers out of formation, gunners abandoning their guns, the wing glowing red. Then, Tempest, 6 o'clock high. A British flight, 4 aircraft strong, drops in like hawks. Their cannons light up instantly, ripping across the airspace JG-7 just passed through. Major Fisher shouts, "Brake! Brake! Full power!" But the engines on Merton's Me-262 hesitate before they respond. One of the Jumo turbines coughs, starving for fuel, then catches again with a violent whoomp. Too slow, far too slow. A Tempest closes the gap, its broad wings slicing the air. The British pilot keeps the line steady, a perfect shot. A 20mm round crashes through the fuselage of one of the German jets. Flames burst from the engine nacelle. The aircraft rolls, nose dipping. It's Lieutenant Weber. Mertens recognizes his markings as the crippled jet spirals downward. "I'm hit! Control's gone!" His voice cuts off. The jet disappears into the smoke below. Major Fisher curses, pressing his own 262 into a dive toward the treetops, Tempest trailing him like hounds on scent. Mertens follows, fighting the controls, vision tunneling as the jet vibrates violently at near transonic speed. The Tempests dive after them, engines howling, prop blades beating the air like war drums. Down below, the rooftops of Berlin rush upward. Mertens can see individual streets now, individual buildings, even the silhouettes of German civilians staring skyward, watching the final battle for their dead city play out above them. He tightens his harness and whispers a single sentence to himself, barely audible over the roar. The Reich is dying in the sky, and he dives straight into the smoke. March 18th, 1945. Over central Berlin, 6,000 feet. The city rises up beneath Mertens in a blur of rubble, flame, and smoke-flooded avenues. His Me-262 plunges into the low cloud layer, streaking past the shell of a ruined apartment block so closely he can see broken furniture scattered inside. Above him, the Tempests and Mustangs circle like carrion birds. Then the British dive. 4 Tempest Make-5s, their broad, aggressive wings cutting sharply through the haze, their engines roar with raw fury, not the smooth jet whine of the 262, but the brutal mechanical pounding of pistons at war. Mertens rips the stick back. The Me-262 climbs, but not fast enough. The engines are still spooling, still hungry for thrust. They respond like tired lungs. A Tempest flashes across his starboard side. The pilot, calm, precise, fires a burst. White-hot tracers zip past Merton's canopy and stitch across the rooftops below, pulverizing brick. In his headset, "Adler led, Tempests are on us, I can't shake them." It's Major Fisher's wingman. Mertens glances left. A single Tempest has slipped into perfect position behind Fisher's jet, slightly high, slightly offset, exactly where a hunter belongs. The British pilot fires a controlled burst. A string of 20mm rounds slams into Fisher's right engine. Black smoke erupts. The Me-262 lurches. "Rudy, pull out, bail if you can." But Fisher does not answer. His jet spirals, engine burning, trailing a long arc of oily flame as it plunges toward Berlin's southern districts. The Tempest swings away, already choosing its next target. Mertens is alone. The radio crackles with clipped, frantic German voices. JG-7 pilots falling back, scattering, diving for cover between the burning districts of Spandau and Moabit. Mustangs incoming, 9 o'clock. "Brake! Brake! They're everywhere!" "I can't." The transmission dissolves into static. Mertens banks hard toward the Tiergarten, the city's central park now reduced to blackened trees and scorched earth. He flies so low that branches whip past the wings of the 262. This is how jets survive now, not by climbing, not by speed, but by hiding. The Tempests follow, all four, relentless. They don't need altitude, they don't need surprise. The British have learned the jet's weaknesses better than Germany understands its own aircraft. At low altitude, the Me-262 becomes equal to, or worse than, to its pursuers. Sluggish, slow to accelerate, prone to flame out if mishandled for even a moment. And worst of all, its cannons can't aim straight during violent maneuvers. A Mustang streaks overhead, trying to cut him off. Mertens rolls right, skimming just above the treetops. The Tempests adjust instantly, tightening their formation, boxing him in toward the east. If he continues straight, they'll corner him over Berlin's government quarter, where German flak is firing at everything in the sky. If he turns, they'll cut him apart. He feels sweat drip into his eyes. The city around him trembles with the force of distant detonations. Rail yards detonating, fuel depots collapsing, buildings burning from yesterday's raid and tomorrow's raid yet to come. The Reich is collapsing beneath him, but up here in the sky, the collapse is faster, and he sees hope. A brief break in the smoke and a sliver of sky above the eastern edge of the Tiergarten. If he can climb, even for a moment, he might get the engines to thrust. He might outrun them. He might live one more minute. Mertens pulls back, easing the throttle. The Me-262 begins to climb, gently, slowly. The Tempests move to cut him off. The lead British pilot throttles forward, pulling into firing position. He has the shot. The 20mm cannons on his wings begin to glow. For a heartbeat, everything hangs suspended. The Tempest lining up the kill. The jet crawling skyward. The bombers droning above it all. Berlin burning below. A single second between life and death. Then, a blinding flash erupts in the sky above them. An explosion so bright it turns the smoke clouds white. Mertens flinches, banking hard out of pure reflex. The Tempests scatter, confused. Something just happened above the city. Something enormous. Something that may have just saved him or doomed him. March 18th, 1945, 7,000 feet over central Berlin. For a moment, the sky is pure white. A silent flash that blinds both friend and enemy. The shockwave rolls across the rooftops, rattling shattered windows and throwing loose debris into the air. Mertens shields his eyes. The Me-262 bucks violently, caught in turbulence that wasn't there a second earlier. What in God's name? Then he sees it. High above the city, one of the American B-17s has taken a catastrophic hit, either flak or a lucky 30mm round from a 262 during the chaos. The bomber has exploded in midair, breaking apart into burning fragments that tumble downward like shooting stars. The explosion sends ripples of confusion through both sides. The Mustangs scatter. The Tempests break formation. The bomber stream splits, each formation adjusting to avoid debris raining down on Berlin. And in that one instant of chaos, Mertens lives again. He rolls inverted and drops into a steep dive through the drifting smoke, using the distraction to escape the Tempest's kill box. The Me-262's engines howl as they finally spool to full thrust, hurling the jet forward like a stone from a sling. But below him, the city is a nightmare. The government quarter burns in a solid line of flame, rail yards belch black smoke, and the entire Tiergarten appears scorched to its roots. Flak guns, both 88s and smaller quickfirers, pepper the sky with black blossoms as German gunners fire at anything with wings. Even the Me-262 is not safe. An 80mm shell detonates too close, sending a shockwave that rocks the jet sideways. Shrapnel rakes across Mertens' fuselage, punching holes through the left wing's aft section. Every alarm in the cockpit lights up. "Come on," he growls, slapping the panel. "Just hold together." He pulls into a shallow climb, trying to escape the ground fire without climbing high enough for the Tempest to spot him again. But one of them already has. A lone Tempest breaks through the smoke behind him, the same pilot who shot down Fisher, a hunter, persistent, exact. The British ace throttles forward, gaining altitude and turning hard to reacquire the jet. Mertens sees the silhouette behind him and curses under his breath. "Not again, not now." The Me-262, wounded and sluggish, begins to shake under the stress of the climb. The left engine temperature needle trembles in the red. The British pilot closes the distance. The Tempest fires, a long burst of 20mm rounds that streak past Mertens' canopy and rip into a building below, detonating with a pulse of orange. Mertens banks sharply. The Tempest follows flawlessly. This is no rookie. This is a man who has hunted jets before and won. Mertens dives again, barely clearing the rooftops, engines screaming in protest. He races along a bombed-out boulevard, weaving between plumes of smoke rising from collapsed houses. The Tempest stays glued to his tail. Up ahead, a break in the city, a strip of open land beyond the outskirts, skeletal trees lining what once was a park. If he can reach it, he might outrun the Briton. If he can't, he's dead. Mertens pushes the throttles forward so hard the levers nearly snap. The Tempest begins to close. Rangers tighten. The British pilot steadies his aim for one final burst. Mertens grips the stick. And then, a second jet appears out of nowhere. A Me-262 streaks across his nose, engines howling, diving straight toward the Tempest, its cannons thunder, a violent booming sound that shakes the very air. The Tempest breaks off hard, flashing past Mertens' canopy. The German jet swings around, close enough for Mertens to read the markings. Black 12, JG7. A familiar voice crackles onto the radio. Adler 2, stay with me, we're not done yet. It is Oberfeldwebel Lucas Brandt, one of JG7's last surviving veterans, a man rumored to have escaped 5 different Allied ambushes. And somehow, impossibly, he has arrived in the perfect second to save Mertens' life. Above them, Berlin burns. Behind them, the Allies regroup. And ahead of them lies the final battleground for the skies of Europe.